Hi, it's me, Daphne, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm gonna be doing a massive wrap up of all the books I've read so far this year from January to May. Currently, this is June, so I don't really want to talk about June books yet because let's get back into the flow of the monthly wrap-ups in June and crossing our fingers, okay? I've promised you this massive wrap-up because I owe you some updates on the reads I've had so far this year. But don't worry, this video is probably really long, but I'm gonna chapter it down below so you can skip around. First, I'm gonna tell you about my stats so far for the year, like the major things that I'm tracking in my personal file, and then we'll go through my 5-star reads. I'll probably talk about those in the most detail along with my 4.5-star reads, and then we'll touch on 4 stars and we'll fly through 3 and less as we go along. But I still want to cover all those books, even though like the most exciting ones are the highest rated ones, but I just want to be thorough. So we'll touch on all the books that I've read, but you can jump around wherever you please, and I'm not gonna like bore you with all the details for the books that I was like about, you know? We'll just gush about the ones that I loved. Okay, so starting off with stats, I'm gonna pop up some graphics and such for you guys to look at. For ease, I love a good graphic. I think it just makes it easier to really like absorb the numbers that are being spat at you. So we'll start with books I read each month. So in January, I read 13 books. In February, I read 8. In March, I read 5. In April, I read 7. And then May, I read 9. The star ratings I've had so far this year, I've had 5 5 stars, 5 4.5 stars, 11 4 stars, 3 3.5, 13 3 stars. That's a lot of like, it's fine kind of reads. But to be fair, like 5 5 stars and 5 4.5 stars is really good. And 4 stars are very successful for me as well. A 3-star, 3.5 star is not bad by any means. It's still like a fine time. Like I liked it, but it was like mostly neutral. You know what I mean? Like, it was fine. I didn't quit it, but like I'm not obsessed with it. And I have flaws, you know, in my personal opinion. And then I had 2 2.5-star reads, 3 2-star reads, and then 0 1-star reads. I don't typically clearly give books 1 star. If I'm really hating it, I'll just DNF it. I can actually tell you how many books I've DNF'd so far this year, and it looks like I've DNF'd 8 of them. It's just not on this little table, but 8 books DNF'd. You could look at that as a 1 star if you like, but I'm not gonna put it on Goodreads as 1 star. I'm not here to like mess up an author's star rating or whatever just because it didn't work for me. That's just my personal opinion. So hand in hand with the amount of books I'm able to read each month, I do read a lot of novellas alongside of my typical length novel reads. So in January, I read 1,850 so pages. February, I almost read 1,900 pages. March, I read 1,240 pages about. April, 1,760 pages. May, I read 2,900 pages, which was a lot. I don't know what happened in May. I was going off in May. Actually, I think I started reading the Harry Potter books. No, I think I started in April. I don't know. I don't know what happened in May. And then the book length, right? So I think this is really interesting too, because with the novellas, sometimes I just need like palate cleansers, like a little fun, giggly, silly, smutty time. So I've read 12 novellas under 100 pages. I've read 7 books under 200 pages. I don't know if that technically counts as a novella, but in my mind, if I see a book under 200 pages, I'm like, nice, this will be a super quick read, just a couple hours. Then I've read 7 books in between 200 and 300 range, 7 books between 300 and 400 range. Interesting spread there, a lot of 7s, 777, ooh. Whose angel number is that? It's not mine. I think my angel number is 8. But anyway, and then I've read some longer books. I have 3 between that 400 and 500 range, 1 between 500 and 600, 2 between 600 and 700. What the heck was I reading? What did I mean, one of them has to be Harry Potter. Are both of them Harry Potter? And then I have 1 between 700 and 800. I think that's gotta be Harry Potter. Now we'll move on to the genres, which is always fun. So we all know I love romance. I've read 58% romance, which totals to 24 books, 12% smutty books, you know, not even really about the romance. Like sometimes it's about the romance, but like I didn't pick it up for the romance, I picked it up for the smut, right? That was 5 books, and then I read 1 classic. I've read 17% fantasy, like truly fantasy, not like a romancy or anything, with a total of 7 books. I've read 2 historicals that aren't like historical romances, because I do a romance subgenre, which we'll go into next. 1 mystery and 1 nonfiction. What nonfiction did I read? What nonfiction did I read? I don't remember. But we'll find out as we go through. My memory is crappy, but I'm trying to work on it. So then delving deeper into the romance subgenre, I've read 33% romance that are sci-fi based with 8 books, 9 contemporary romances, which is like 38%, 2 fantasy romances. I'm like kind of burnt out on fantasy romance. Like, can I even be burnt out? I've apparently only read 2, but like I see a lot of content about fantasy romance, and I feel like honestly I'm getting enough just through watching reading vlogs of my friends and like other YouTubers I enjoy. But yeah, I just haven't been really like that interested in picking up fantasy romance this year. I'm not opposed to it. It's just a phase I'm going through. I'm going through a contemporary phase, apparently. And the sci-fis are probably mostly Ice Planet Barbarians that were like early off in the year. Okay, and then moving on, we have 17% historical with 4 books, historical romance, and then I've only logged 1 book as a monster romance. And I read a lot of monster romance before. So sometimes those cross over, like am I marking it romance, am I marking it fantasy, am I marking it sci-fi? Because, you know, those kind of cross over with monsters sometimes. But that's how I've categorized it so far this year. And then I want to do 2 more stats. So I have sources next to talk about. I've read 52% of the books that I already own with 22 books, which is pretty good. That's like more than half of the books I'm reading I already own. I didn't even realize that. That's pretty stinking good. How am I doing that? That's probably the best I've ever done. That's amazing. And then I'm really utilizing Kindle Unlimited. I've read 43% from Kindle Unlimited with 18 books. Again, those are just the ones I probably just pick up on a whim. The shorter ones, some of the things that are popular, that are available on KU, so I don't have to spend my own money on them because I'm already paying for the subscription. So yeah, that's really good. I really like getting my money's worth with that. Realistically, I should probably read maybe 600 to 700 pages a month to get my money's worth for KU, but don't quote me on that. I'm trying. I do read a lot of KU, clearly. And then only 2 books from the library, which also is alarming. But I think that's because I'm trying to prioritize my own physical books more. And I used to read a lot of like historical romances from the library, so I have a lot of those like tagged on my TBR and my Libby app. But yeah, I've been really feeling contemporary and like really trying to like get through my physical TBR. Like this shelf is my red shelf. That's why I'm standing in front of it, so I can just pick up books easily without like destroying my shelves completely. I can just put it back. But my other shelf, you know, for my vlogs over here by the TV is all unread books. And my mom came over a couple weeks ago and she shamed me. She was like, Daphne, all these books are unread. How have you not read all these books? There's so many. I'm like, mother, they are 2 separate hobbies. Okay, I do a lot of reading. I just don't own all the books that I read necessarily. And like, I know, I'm working on it, okay? I'm working on it. I should probably unhaul some of the books that I'll probably never read. But I like giving them a chance, okay? And the serotonin hit of buying a book, obviously, we all know. We all love reading. We all love books, so I'm sure you know. So that's that for source. And then the last one I want to talk about is series versus standalones, which is a new one I've tracked this year. I think I saw Meg with Books do this because she's really into like her completing series challenge and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, just be curious to see how many series I'm reading and starting and how many standalones I'm reading. I have 21% of them being standalones with 9 books, which is like fine, I guess. And then 38% of the books I've read are first in a series with 16 books, and then 41, we'll say, percent being sequels with 17 books. So, snaps to me. I have more sequels read than first in a series, which feels like an accomplishment. Just based off like standards of, oh, do we want to finish series or start series, whatever. Not that it matters. None of anything really matters, right? But yeah, that just feels positive. I do like a series. I like getting to know, especially like standalone kind of series. What do you call them? I don't know, like the series that are like kind of like romance series where each book is almost like a standalone, but like you see a little bit of the other characters in the previous book, so they're like interconnected. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I do enjoy interconnected series, not necessarily like following the same couple or following the same storyline all the time, though those are also good, but I tend to like the interconnected ones that have like, you know, their own dedicated story in each book, but they're like, you know exactly what I mean. I don't need to explain it to you. So yeah, so those are all my stats. Let me take a break because it's freaking hot. All right, so now let's jump into the specific books that I read. We're gonna start at the top. We're not messing around, okay? I'm not here to waste your time. We're gonna start with the 5-star books that I've read, okay? And I gotta preface by saying I give 5 stars based off what I was expecting from the book and how much I enjoyed reading it, and like the standard for the different types of books aren't always equal, okay? So take it with a grain of salt. Just because I gave something 5-star doesn't mean it's like my ultimate lifetime favorite book of all time. Maybe not, but it delivered or exceeded my expectations when I was going into it, so I had to give it 5 stars, you know? So starting off, I didn't have any 5 stars in January, so we're jumping straight into February with our first 5-star book, which was Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. I got this as a gift for Christmas from my neighbor and friend Monica. She's in the book club with me here, and it was really sweet of her to give it to me. It's definitely like YA, maybe like a little bit older than YA, because I don't know if the character's like a teenager, but she's quite young. Fairy tale vibes. There's like a little bit of magic in there where our main character, who is a princess, can speak to some animals, and there's like different levels of magic throughout this series. I do want to continue it, but I just haven't picked up the books. I do want to have a physical copy of the next one. It doesn't like explicitly say it on the back, so I don't want to spoil it for you, but our princess is supposed to get married to a foreigner like in the neighboring country. Something goes awry and she pretty much is left to her own devices and lost. I really enjoyed this. I listened to the full cast audio as well for this, which was really good. I would definitely recommend listening to the audiobook of this as you read along or on its own. It was really, really good. Though sometimes the character voices, like the acting, I'm like, all right, let me just read it with my own eyes. But it was nice to like just relax and like listen along. That was my first 5-star read of the year. Thank you, Monica, for gifting it to me and getting me started into this cute little fairy tale world. The next 5-star book was also in February, and that is An Extraordinary Union. This is a Black historical romance. For some reason, again, this was gifted to me. 2 gifted books in a row. I think also the experience of receiving a book as a gift like lifts it for me because it's like extra special. So this was gifted to me by my mom for, I think when I did her a favor, I like dog sat and cat sat for like a week. I stayed down at her house. So this was a little gift. This is about a woman, a Black woman who is a spy for the North. She's pretending to be a slave down in the South to get intel, and a white guy named Malcolm who's also a spy, and he's pretending to be a Confederate soldier to get intel. They don't necessarily like know that they're spies at first, but things become revealed to them and they start falling in love. But it's like the Civil War. If that was not apparent, it's the Civil War. And it's like, how is our heroine Elle supposed to be with this white man, right? In such a tumultuous time. And it was really good. I liked the action. I loved being able to read a historical with this kind of representation and a strong female character. I just had a really good time with it. I thought it was really well done. I think it's a part of a series, but I don't have the next one, but maybe I should pick it up. But I have no idea who it would be with, like what related characters. I could just be making that up. I don't know. Should I check? it is a part of a series. There's 3 books in it. This came out in 2017, so I guess the series is completed. Yeah, maybe I should continue this. I did have a good time. Why are you flashing red? You're plugged in. I don't understand why are you overheating? Oh my God, it's overheating. Okay, intermission. Hi, I'm back. I filmed some clips, not that many, but my mic wasn't plugged in. I had to take a break so the camera could cool down, and I picked up some focaccia bread from my friend Monica downstairs because she offered it to me, and I said I would love some, so enjoying that. All right, so the next 5-star book that I read this year was in April, and it was an audiobook called Long Way Down. It's actually a poem. My mom recommended it to me. I was able to check it out from Libby. It's only like an hour long, easy, well, I wouldn't say it's like easy, but it's like a quick listen. This is about a young black gentleman who's just lost his brother to gang violence, and it's his experience wanting revenge, and he's coming down the elevator in his apartment building, and he's having these experiences where he can reflect on his life and the lives around him and this horrible cycle. And I thought it was well done. I thought the poetry was beautiful. It's like spoken word kind of vibes, especially because you're listening to it, and like the emotional impact is really strong. I cried when they talked about the kid's father and his uncle. I'm happy that my mom recommended it to me, even though it's like a heavier topic, and I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for some more diverse reads, some reads that will make you emotional, that are thought-provoking, and if you want to read some poetry also. Then the next 5-star read is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. This is the 2nd book in the Harry Potter series. I'm not going to go too in-depth on my thoughts because I have an epic, super long spoiler Harry Potter vlog coming your way at some point this year once I'm done reading all the books. It's going to include all the books and all my thoughts, so I've already talked about this in depth, but just know this one was my favorite one so far, and I've given it 5 stars. Then we have the uncensored Picture of Dorian Gray, which I read in May. And I also read this for my IRL book club with my friends here in the city. This is a classic about a young, beautiful man who becomes this muse for an artist. The artist paints this portrait of him, and the artist's friend says some things that starts to corrupt Dorian, the beautiful guy, right? Because he's like, oh, the best thing in life is beauty and youth, and there's nothing without beauty and youth, and like we should just live in like this world where we just do whatever we want and da-da-da-da-da, whatever. And he starts corrupting this kid. I loved reading this. I read it in high school. It like stuck in my brain because I was very scared. It's probably the scariest thing I ever read when I was like 16. Reading it as an adult wasn't that scary because I'm more I've been exposed to more things in life via media and like whatever, just I have more experience. But it was still so amazing, so beautiful. And I loved the uncensored version. It had more queer energy in it. For book club, I read this uncensored version. Trevor also read the uncensored version. And then Monica and Maddie read the traditional version. So there's like 3 versions floating around. This one, the one that got censored, which was short, and then Oscar Wilde went back and like lengthened the censored version to just make it like longer. So that's the version Monica and Maddie read. So it was interesting to compare the things that had happened in their copy versus like the things that happened in our copy. And yeah, I really had a great time with this. I definitely recommend this if you're looking for a classic, especially one that's kind of outside of that Jane Austen vibe with like balls and marriage marts and like talking and chambers and all this stuff, you know, whatever. This is totally different vibe, but it was written in the 1890s and it's amazing. So I'm shocked there aren't more reviews on it on Goodreads. It deserves a lot more attention and love, and it's just beautifully written. And especially as like a person that's getting older versus like when I was in high school, like just the topic of like youth and beauty being so important and like valued above everything else, and like how aging is so terrifying really hit different, okay? So yeah, loved this for sure. 5 stars, read it. So those were all my 5 stars. Now let's move into the 4.5 stars. And again, some of these are treated different than others. The first 4.5 star I had was in January, and it was a novella, kind of. It was a prequel. It was The Origins of the Academy Bully, which is 0.5 in the Zodiac Academy series. I gave this 5 stars because I had already read book 1, and getting the background of 2 major male characters, like when they were much younger was so insightful and so interesting. I think this world is fascinating and I really do want to continue it. I put like the entire series on my TBR for the year and I've made no progress since reading this one book, as you'll see, but I still want to do it. I just have like other video projects that I ended up prioritizing. That universe is massive. The one Zodiac Academy series is already really long with really long books, and then they're like spin-off series and like, it's a lot, but we'll see. It was great to get more insight on those characters, so I gave it 4.5 stars. Then the next 4.5 stars I gave in February. I read this one for my book club as well. This is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This is a Black love romance between two authors. Our female main character, Eva, is like a romance author, and then we have Shane, who is like a hard-hitting fiction author, and they've been writing to each other in their novels for years because they'd known each other when they were teenagers, and they had this like really like powerful relationship together, and then things kind of fell apart and you learn what happened as you go back and forth in their memories. And let me just say, don't read this as a romance, okay? It's advertised as a romance. It's like smart, sexy, absolutely loved it. I vlogged this one. This is like a dark, sad, emotional fiction book first, I'd say, with undertones of romance. I mean, their love is the central focus of the story, but like it isn't like, oh my God, are they gonna kiss? It's not like that. It's not like happy, fun romance vibes. It's about their love, it's about their struggle, it's about their pain, and it's about them like coming together and trying to help each other while they're so damaged and hurt. And it's beautiful and painful, but like it's not like a light like, ooh, no, it's not that, okay? But it was beautiful and I loved it, and it was a hit at the book club too, and I'm happy to have it, and I'm so happy that I read it. I should definitely check out this author's other works. I just don't own any of them at this time, so we'll see. Then we have River Sing Me Home. I read this for my family book club, 4.5 stars. And this is a Caribbean story about like the Emancipation Act and how this woman is supposed to have received her freedom, but the plantation owners really don't want to grant people their freedom. They're like, oh, you're not slaves anymore, but like you're under contract with me and I'm not going to pay you and you can't leave and I'm going to force you to stay here kind of energy. But she runs away because she's determined to find her children that have been taken from her over the years because of, you know, them being treated as commodities and not actual human beings. So she's on a journey to find like her, how many kids was it? It was like 7 or so kids that got spread out across the Caribbean islands. And it was interesting to learn about that history because I don't know the slave history of the islands. Like obviously I know things from the American perspective that happened in America from what I learned in school, and just like things that I know from like reading. It's like very focused on the American experience. So this was interesting to learn from the Caribbean experience. It was a bit convenient at times, but overall I appreciated this book a lot. Then we have, and I feel like this is again spoilers, but quickly I'll just say I have Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This is the first book in the Harry Potter series, and I gave this 4.5 stars. My thoughts will be in the upcoming vlog. See you then. Then this next one I'm really excited about. I read this from KU on my Kindle, and it's The Words by Ashley Jade. This was a chunky, like drama-filled rock star romance that spanned a handful of years. Our characters are Lennon and Phoenix. Now, you know I like a book if I can remember the characters' names, and I'm 99% sure I've got those right. Lennon is a bit overweight when the story begins. They meet each other in high school. She's very unpopular. She's getting bullied by like the pretty girls at school. And Phoenix is the hot and sexy like guitarist kid, and they're seniors or whatever. And he's struggling in school, and Lennon is asked by her teacher to help him out. And she's always had a crush on him, and things become revealed with why he's struggling in school. And Lennon like really steps up and shows how much she cares about him, but she knows like nothing will ever come of it, even though she has a crush on him. And he's like not interested in like relationships or really like that interested in her. But things like change, and then something dramatic happens that makes Lennon hate him, like hate his guts Also, I guess it's relevant to know that Lennon is a songwriter, even though she doesn't share any of her work. Her father is a songwriter, so she has like that natural talent and like exposure. Many years pass, they jump to them being in like their mid-20s, and Phoenix become this ultra famous song artist, and he's traveling with his band, and these tragic things happen, and he's losing control, and he's like abusing alcohol and drugs and all this stuff, and his manager's like, we need to have somebody watch him. We need to find someone that won't fall victim to his like, you know, charm, whether it's a woman or a man, right? Because at first I was like, why wouldn't you just hire like a man babysitter to watch him? But like Phoenix will just be like, oh, here are these hot girls, and give it to the guy, and the guy will be like, yeah, and then he's not gonna like watch Phoenix. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then if it's a woman, Phoenix is like, oh, you wanna like hook up with me and like just whatever, and then I'll do whatever I want. And the girl's like, yeah. So they were like looking for someone that wouldn't fall victim to like his manipulation. So his old band members are like, yo, you gotta hit up Lennon. Like, she hates his guts. And it becomes them working together because Lennon desperately needs the money. And that's not spoiler at all, because there's so much that happens in this book, and it was really good. I had so much fun with it. It's very steamy, but it's not just focused on that. There's just so much interesting drama going on. I love drama. Yeah, I just love the drama in these books. I eat it up, and I would definitely recommend this one if you're just looking for a wild, fun time and you want to stay in a world for a while, because the book is long. And there's like a prequel one, and I saw Jess and Tori read it. I think I saw on Goodreads, and they weren't like obsessed with it. And like, do I really want to rehash like these old characters that you're supposed to hate anyway? I just want to read more of this author, but like their backlist is like not that big, and I don't know. Like, I'm ready for the next book in this series moving forward, not going backwards. All right, so those are like the main things I wanted to catch you up on. This video is probably super long, but let me like fly through the other things that I've read. So we are now moving into the 4-star section, and I'm just gonna like power through, okay? So God bless you, Editing Daphne, for popping up all these books and stuff. We have Aftershocks, which is a part of the Ice Planet Barbarian series. It's fine. A Midnight Clear, which was a super short, like 15-page story that I read for Once Upon a Readathon. Wed to the Ice Giant, Monster Romance. I actually liked this one. It's in a series of like multiple authors writing about them. I liked this author's one. I read the next one. I didn't like that one as much. It was like with a Minotaur. I'll probably talk about it in like 5 minutes. This one was crazy. He's actually a giant. Somehow they make that work, even though she's just like a human woman. And yeah, I think about that one sometimes. Then I have The Roommate Risk, which is by Talia Hibbert. She wrote that Brown Sisters series. This one was fun. It had a lot of pining. I love pining. And there are like flashbacks and stuff, which are cute. Some people don't like flashbacks, but sometimes I don't mind them. Then we have Barbarian's Rescue, whatever. Then I read Forever Never. Finally, this is a signed edition that I have from Lucy Score that I picked up in Barnes & Noble. I have like a shopping vlog, Barnes & Noble shopping vlog, where I picked this up. This, again, 4 stars, solid read, very contemporary, steamy, which is fun. I'm glad that I enjoyed this Lucy Score. And it also had kind of a bit of suspense in it. Actually, there definitely was suspense in it. There was like violence and like stalkers and guns and fun time. This is about a guy who's in love with his brother's high school sweetheart, his boss's daughter, and his ex-wife's best friend. That sounds super dramatic, but I will say more than half of those, you know, taboo relationships where like he feels like he can't be with her are his own fault. A little bit of a spoiler. Obviously, like the fact that it was his brother's high school sweetheart was out of his control, but like he decided to work for the main character's mom. Like her mom's like a police sheriff, and he's like a police guy. So like, that was his choosing. And then the other one, the ex-wife's best friend, he chose to marry that woman. Like, that's your own fault too, fool. But it gets even more dramatic than that when you read the book. Okay, it's a good book for reading in the wintertime because it's in a very cold, chilly place, and maybe not the best read for summer. I read it in winter. The next one is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This is a Japanese translated short story collection, I guess you could say. All the short stories connect for the most part. It was interesting. There's magical realism in there, time traveling. I'm sure you've heard about it. I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Mile High by Liz Tom Ford. I was very excited to try out this, like, I think it's the Chicago Windy City series. It's a sports romance series, but they follow different sports throughout. So this first book is about hockey players, and an airline flight attendant. So it's not like white shoes. I'm saying hockey players. It's a hockey player, a hockey team. They have a private plane and our heroine works on that plane, and it's her romance with one of the guys. I really, really enjoyed it. I felt like the tension in the first maybe half to 2/3 was really good and interesting, and then it kind of like diffused for a bit, and then the book felt a little too long, and the like third act breakup resolution took super long, and I kind of like started losing steam on it. Like it could have been like a 4.5, 5 stars, but the book was just too long. And I'm pretty sure the other books in the series are also really long, but I'll still probably read them anyway because I enjoyed Liv Sandfort's writing. Then I have just like a quick Katie Roberts book, The Demon's Bargain, just like a silly, fun, steamy time. I'm trying to make my way through that series. I enjoy picking up Katie Roberts because she's pretty reliable when I'm looking for something a little steamier. I just know what to expect with her. It's kind of hard, I don't know, sometimes it's a pain in the neck to try new authors. When I'm in like just for a mood for like a palette cleanser. Oh, honestly though, speaking of like new palette cleanser, steamy fun times, I tried Fiona Davenport. I read a couple books in her series. One of them was Mac. I don't remember the order of them. I have like the box set. I picked it up for free on like one of those Kindle download days, and I gave Mac 4 stars. Can't particularly tell you what this one was about. But all you need to know is it's like motorcycle guys and these like virgin girls, and they see them at first sight and they're like, you're mine. There was 3 of them in the box set, and I read them all like over a span of a couple days, and they're pretty much the same energy. But the particulars made this one better. I can't specifically remember which one. And then back on my Harry Potter business, I gave The Goblet of Fire 4 stars. I'd say majority of it was like solid, like 3.5, but that last section, once you get to the final challenge and then all the drama that happens with Voldemort, like, oh my God, that was so good and action-packed. I loved it. That's enough said. Now we are into the section of 3.5 stars. The first one I'll talk about is another book set that I got for free. This one's called Buying the Virgin, Box Set 1. It's it's conclusive as far as like I felt from reading it. And like it's a box set, but like each book is basically just a chapter. It was fine. It was like silly, smutty time. This woman, she's like 22. She's like early 20s. She's desperate for money. She's been previously married. But for some reason she's virgin. Maybe her husband was like just not that interested in her. So they get separated and she needs to pay for like college or whatever. And she puts herself up for auction. It just jumps right in at the auction, and she gets, you know, won by this handsome older gentleman, and then he introduces her to his friend, and then they do some crazy stuff, and da-da-da-da-da. And she had fun. Another alien one, we have Zoe Draven's The Aliens Prize. I read this for Ava and Tiff's Beam Me Up book club. Don't really remember that much about it. Actually, I do. There was like a tournament. He like won this human woman because I think there's like not a lot of females on his planet, and he's like a king or something. So he's like trying to lead the way to like repopulate his world outside of their community. And it was okay. Next, I have Sharp Objects. I read this for my IRL book club as well with Monica, Maddie, and Trevor. And this was a solid read. It's 3.5 stars. It's a thriller, I guess you could say, about this reporter who goes back to her hometown to figure out what happened to these missing girls. It's pretty dark and twisty, domestic thriller-like. Solid. There's a show on Hulu that is based off this book, but I only watched part of the first episode and they changed things, but like the vibes are still really good from the show, and I mean I'd recommend it. I don't read that many thrillers, so whatever. Okay, so that was the last 3.5, so now we're moving on to the 3s. And these I'm just gonna we're gonna go quick, all right? So we got some Ruby Dixon's back to back from Ice Planet Barbarian World. I was catching up on some of the novellas. I mean, they're all short, but like these are the 0.5s or whatever. I don't know why I skipped them. I think I must have just been looking on Amazon, and I'm just going in order, and I was like looking on Goodreads and it's like I've missed stuff. So I'm going back and catching up. I read Having the Barbarian's Baby, Ice Ice Babies, Calm, and Ice Planet Honeymoon, all 3 stars. I also read The Neighbor Favor and gave it 3 stars. This is another Black love romance with an author and an editor. It's like sweet contemporary. It's a little silly where you need to suspend your disbelief with like how they fell in love at the beginning, like writing emails to each other. I just read in June a book where these people are writing notes to each other. It's yours truly. And I thought that was done so well. Like you could really feel the banter and the chemistry. This like less so, unfortunately. I really wanted to love it. It's fine, it's solid, it's acceptable, it's not a bad read, but like it wasn't anything super spectacular. There are other books that recently came out in the series with her sister, so maybe I'll give it another try, but I'd rather take it out from the library, I think. Then I continued another series, All Scott and Bothered. I read the first one a long time ago, maybe like a year plus ago. It's a bit suspenseful, maybe a little bit. It's a historical romance and it's a solid read. Our heroine was plus size, but she's a little questionable when she talks about her body. That was like my biggest critique with it. Oh, and also the hero was kind of an a-hole for a lot of it. Like, kind of hard to redeem him. Then I read Alien Tyrant and gave this 3 stars. I think I also read this for Ava and Tiff's book club. I really liked the premise of this. I liked the start of it. I liked the world. I loved the like alien monster creatures. Their eyes were so fascinating. I talked about this in a reading vlog recently, but I really wanted the author to explore more of like the skills that the heroine had with like being like a linguistic and all that stuff to see if the girl could figure out the alien's language. Like I thought that would have been really interesting, and that kind of got dropped to the wayside. The later halves just was, I just kind of puttered out with it, and the steamy bits were like whatever. I was not interested in continuing the series. Then I have a historical romance, An Improper Proposition. It's fine. Then I read a super short, steamy book, 11 Hours. This was like a workplace romance where the hero is like the boss and he's kind of a jerk, and this girl who's, I don't know, she's not like a secretary or something. She's like something more important than that, but she's not his equal necessarily. I think they work in like a law firm or something. Maybe she's like a, I don't know, it doesn't matter. But they've always been attracted to each other, but he's a jerk to her and she thinks he hates her. And then one day they get stuck in the elevator together when there's like a blackout or something across the city. And they're stuck in this elevator for 11 hours and they're like facing their feelings for each other. And it's just a steamy, silly, fun time. And there's other books in the series, like 11 scenes, 11 something. And I tried to read the next one, but like the vibe totally changed. It's still in with the same characters and I liked that less, so I DNF'd it. But yeah, 11 Hours was solid, 3 stars. Then I read The Argonauts for my IRL book club. I used to have a physical copy, but I lent it out to Amanda, Monica's friend from college. This is like a queer work about like a woman and motherhood and being transgender with her partner. But like honestly, the way it was written was like really disjointed for me. It just felt like somebody like wrote notes on like sticky notes and then like piled it all into a book. So I had a really hard time. I did not enjoy it that much. I liked the talk on motherhood, but the rest of it, like just the way it was so disjointed and it was like really hard to follow, like I did not enjoy the experience of reading it. It's definitely a book that people like study in school. I think Monica, she went to art school, she even said like they definitely read, like people read that for some of their coursework at her school. I wanted to love it more, but like just because of the way it was written, it was really hard to enjoy. Okay, and then we have the last Harry Potter book that I'll talk about so far this year, and that's the third one, The Prisoner of Azkaban. I gave this 3 stars, which is surprising because this is my favorite movie in the series, but it's not my favorite book that I've read so far. More thoughts to come later on, obviously, like I've said 1,000 times. Okay, and then here come the other Fiona Davenport books that go with the Mac one. We have Link and Dom, gave them 3 stars. Again, same energy with the motorcycle guys, meeting their virgin women and being like, oh my God, love at first sight, you're mine, you can't leave, you're living here at our clubhouse now. Only a few more books to talk about. We are finally in the 2.5 section. If you're still here, thanks for listening, and here's some tea on the books that I really didn't like. So I have His Darkest Craving by Tiffany Roberts. So I've read Tiffany Roberts. It's like I think it's a husband-wife duo. I read their other book, that Spider one, and I really enjoyed it. I think I only read the first one, but I do want to continue it probably, even though the political stuff I didn't care about. But this one is about this battered woman. She's like running away from her abusive husband, and she moves out to this cabin in the woods, and there is a like shadow creature fae guy living in the woods. He's been cursed by a witch and he's like lost his physical form, and he sees her and It's kind of maybe like a Fated Mates vibe, but I don't know. I think there was just something about this execution that I didn't love. So you have 2.5. Okay, and then the next book is Everfair, 2.5 stars. This is the first book in a series. I picked this up because I was gifted the second book from the publisher called Kinning. I haven't read this yet, but unfortunately, like, I was really struggling reading Everfair. I listened to it exclusively on audio. It's like a steampunk reimagining of the colonization of Africa. Honestly, it was really hard for me to follow, and I was just like not that interested. There's like a lot of character perspectives we're jumping around with, and I think with such, not like a super high fantasy, but like basically a high fantasy steampunk world, I really struggled with just listening to it. My listening skills could be better, especially if it's not just like a straightforward narrative. And then like they're telling me like what year it is, and there's like a lot of time going by, and like I really struggle to follow along. So maybe I'll still enjoy the second one reading with my eyes, but oh, I'm sad that I didn't love the first one because it doesn't make me that excited to read the next one. But that was just me. That's just me. So we have 3 more books to talk about, and they were all 2 stars. So I have Wed to the Minotaur, which is the next book after that Ice Giants one that's written by a different author. I mean, there's insta-love, but it was like so silly. It was so silly, and like the decisions the characters made no sense, and it was just like not that fun. So 2 stars. And then I have Falling for Her Bodyguard Bestie. I picked this up for free from one of those download days. It was like fine, like a silly, fine, smutty time, but then the female character like just says the dumbest things, and I'm like, how can you be that dumb? Like, how are you that dumb? Feelings become revealed to each other, they're hooking up or whatever, and then he's like, you're gonna move in with me and we're gonna get married, and she's like, why? And he's like, because you already told me like you wanted to be married to me, and also we've been having unprotected sex, so you're probably pregnant. And she's like, oh my God, I could be pregnant. And it's like, bitch, how are you not like being more defensive of your own body? You know what I mean? To like be like, oh yeah, I could be pregnant. Like, no, come on, like wake up, honey, wake up. You know, that like really pissed me off, that like they're having unprotected sex and then she's like not even aware that she could be impregnated. Like, have some responsibility over your own body. Like, I know shit happens on accident sometimes, but like she was clueless and it was really unlikable. And I'm sure there were other things that I didn't like about it either. But that's like the most memorable thing. Then the last one, unfortunately, was a buddy read with Monica. We didn't do this for the book club officially, but she was over and she was like, oh, I really want to read this Beauty and the Beast retelling. It's called Bend Her by Cassie Alexander. And I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds fun. But I didn't realize it was part of a series. And I think that kind of pissed me off while I was reading it, because I was just reading it as if it was a standalone. And I was like, God, the pace of this is so slow. But basically it's about this woman who wakes up in like a jail cell dungeon, and she was traveling with like her trusted guards. So she's confused with why she's there, and this like fae guy, this wizard guy, I guess he's not fae, he's more like a wizard, has ownership of her now. And she's trying to come into her own powers because women aren't really allowed to practice magic or have any rights, and they're always kept like underground because there's like evil forces. Kind of think of like Death Eaters, what do they call them? I don't know, like think of the Game of Thrones kind of creatures that are always coming and like attacking and stuff. Energy, so like women are always hidden away, and she's trying to like empower herself, which is cool. But like the pace of it was so like, oh, I'm like, can we get to the romance? Like there's not really any romance. There's a bit of pining on his side and like sexual tension, and well, there's some sexual things that happen, but like it wasn't romance. I don't know, it has potential, but also I couldn't get this off KU. I had to buy it for like a couple bucks, maybe like $4 or something. And I was just like mostly pissed off that there wasn't like anything conclusive that came out of the story when I was expecting it to. So again, like I said in the beginning, my ratings are based off like my expectations going into the book, and my expectations were off, so it screwed up the score a little bit unfairly. I think if I read it with the correct expectations, it would have been different. So yeah. All right, so that finally concludes this massive wrap up. Thank you so much if you watched it all the way through, or even if you watched a part of it or jumped around. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please feel free to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already. Definitely leave a comment down below too. I love chatting with you guys down below, and I will catch you in another video. Bye.